What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here, checking in on this Thursday evening, March 4th, 2021, about 10:03 p.m. West Coast time. And man, I tell you what, quite a day out here when it comes to plate tectonics here on this little planet that we live on. Quite the amount of earthquakes taking place out there in the Pacific. The largest quake so far. Hopefully, there's nothing further, right? Is the 8.1 that struck out there around the Kermadec Islands. Zooming in to the activity. Over the last 24 hours, this is the all magnitudes. Of course, all magnitudes for the Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. mainland area, not for the international community. But this shows 4.0 and above. No doubt some large-scale movement today taking place out here around the Kermadec Trench. Tonga Trench, Samoa, Fiji Islands, pretty quiet. Eerily quiet, and I'm kind of concerned about this region. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But it all started off this morning, earlier this morning with this 7.3 northeast of the North Island of New Zealand, right at the northern part of the Hikurangi Trench area. That's this region of subduction zone here. It's been pretty quiet, but it's very capable of producing some megaquakes itself above what we've seen today. And that's a good thing that it's remaining pretty quiet. So yeah, 7.3 kind of struck there this morning. We've seen some bouncing back and forth up here. 6.1 near the Vanuatu region. And then we've seen some more activity down here north of the 7.3. I believe it was a 7.4 right here. Yep, near the Kermadec Islands. And then it all went to heck when the 8.1 struck, and that pretty much kicked off just a major increase in release of pressure out here in the area of the Kermadec Islands in New Zealand. Right on most of this activity, right there west of the Kermadec Trench area. That 8.1 struck at about 19 kilometers below the surface. Kind of deep, somewhat deep, folks. And the dynamics of this earthquake in an area kind of played a part in lowering the hazard of a major tsunami. I thought this thing was definitely going to kick off something big when it comes to producing a wave out there in the Pacific, but it pretty much was not up to par, so to speak, due to the dynamics out here, which is good. We don't want to see no destructive Pacific-wide tsunami out there. That would not be good for anyone. So yeah, looking at all the activity, folks, looking at all the activity right now, since that 8.1, we got a massive amount of aftershocks, which is common during a major or mega earthquake, such as that 8.1 that struck today. But we're also still seeing kind of a migration to the north up here, up to the north, which kind of tells me that there's continued pressure up here coming from the Pacific plate into the region from the east towards the west. That's your typical plate tectonics here with the Pacific plate to the west from the east. And the reason why I say that is because we're not seeing any type of earthquake activity up here around the Samoa, Tonga region, Fiji Islands area. Nothing. And that's just a little on the scary side for the most part. Not saying anything big's going to happen, but it's something to watch in this specific area, especially with this migration of the quakes right here, spread out over, at least on this scale here, probably 150, 200 miles or so along the trench here. It's something to watch very closely. Of course, we can't forget down here, quite a few folks in Auckland, New Zealand area reported feeling this first quake Not a mega quake, but definitely a very large quake there. 174 kilometers northeast of Gisborne, New Zealand. That kind of startled a tsunami potential there, which luckily it did not transpire and was pretty quick to die down. But that activity to the east was kind of concerning a little bit. Led me to believe that there was further increase in pressure coming from the eastern area. And I did mention that in one of my prior videos today. And it was concerning. It was definitely concerning with that migration right there. Then we've seen the activity up to the north transpire and take place. And it's still kind of concerning to me, folks, with the movement here to the north. Up here north of the 8.1. I don't know. It's just kind of ringing in my head there a little bit with the dynamics of the plates here, that we could potentially see a little bit more further movement up here to the north within this little hook. Well, not a hook, but this area along the Samoa region, the Tonga Trench, if you will. This area is a very important area to watch. Historical seismic activity real quick. I'm going to show you guys over, well, the USGS only goes back 19, let's see, where is it here? Let's see here. I think I just seen that there, right? Well, this is about since 1900 or so in this specific region, okay? 7.9 and above for the same area that we were looking at here on this map, most current recent map from the USGS, past 24 hours or so, shows you that this area up here, this area I'm talking about, the Tonga Trench area, is very, very capable of producing some major quakes, very major quakes. I remember specifically that 8.2 there that struck at 600 kilometers down below the surface. I think I made a video about that too. It's probably here on the channel, but I remember that. Kind of popped out at me right now. So the region where the 8.1 struck today, there's been within the vicinity, within about 200 miles or so, in 8.0 to the north, and in 8.2 to the south. Back in 1917 is when that one struck. The one up here to the north back in 1976. So some pretty good intervals there of time frames. But of course this area is known for some tremendous uptick in earthquake activity over daily periods. It doesn't take long to build up pressure here in this region. Okay, but the absence of some major earthquakes up here recently, and along with the movement here to the south, is a little on the worrisome side. So here in the Tonga area, 8.0 back in 2006. A little bit further north in 8.1 Tonga region back in 1919. Okay, 2006. That's pretty recent, I guess, if you think about it. 2009, 8.1 Samoa Islands region, a little bit further north, and then 8.0 back in 1917. So there's been a couple 8-pointers in the recent era, so to speak, geologically speaking. But 2006 is the latest, or 2009? So we're looking at 10 years, 11 years or so since the last 8.0 earthquake struck around this region. So there is potential, no doubt, I believe, folks, within this region to see some further large-scale movement taking shape. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it's something to be on guard about. Over here towards Fiji, 8.2 back in 2018. Struck at, like I said, 600 kilometers below the surface. That's a major, deep earthquake. I mean, that's a major player, no doubt. 670 kilometers for that 7.9 back in 2018. So this area can see some major deep movement. This is the X marks the spot here when it comes to the most deep earthquake activity and the most deep large magnitudes in the region. I don't think there's any other place on the planet that has this type of setup. This is kind of like the starting point of plate tectonics, so to speak. Further west, towards the Port Vila area, over time, like I said, 7.9 back in 1950. 1920 was a 8.1 near the Loyalty Islands. 1901 was a 7.9 up here to the north. 7.9 near the Santa Cruz Islands back in 1980. So these are all the somewhat large earthquakes, 7.9 and above since 1900. Of course, prior to that, prior to our written records or USGS record keeping, there was much, much more activity. But it's good to be on guard. Pay attention to this area, folks. What else we got here? Latest quake on this map is in aftershock. Kind of seeing a little bit more aftershock activity down south here, south of that 8.1 that struck earlier today. 4.9 Gisborne, New Zealand, at least 191 kilometers east-northeast of that region. A very, very active day, folks, in the Pacific Ring of Fire here northeast of New Zealand area. The only thing that kind of concerns me is that that subduction area right down south here. And I kind of keep mentioning it because it's a major player in some damaging tsunamis and unfortunate events if that were to take place here in between Wellington and to the north there. So hopefully things calm down for the most part. Looking at the overall picture of the Pacific Plate, and over the last 24 hours, just some minor earthquake activity up here. This is prior earthquake activity. No recent events following that 8.1 and all the activity this morning, or I should say midday. So all this activity up here is old, and it will drop off the map. The only new earthquake activity to report is out here along the west coast and up into Alaska. Kind of seen an earthquake increase up there, and also down into the west coast region. And we'll take a look at Southern California, Northern California region, showing that nothing major, folks. We're not seeing anything major when it comes to the uptick in earthquake activity, but definitely seeing a couple mid twos, north of Ridgecrest and also around the Mina, Nevada area. A couple earthquakes as well that is pretty notable when it comes to identifying the sleeping monster up there, the Cascadia subduction zone. A couple twos at the southern end of the Cascadia, at the surface range, 2.9 and 3.0. Right there along the Cascadia megathrust area. That's all we need is for that thing to pop off. That would not be good. That's a great way to start 2001, right? Oh, man. 2021. We're not 20 years behind. It'd be nice to go back to 2001, but you know what? Yeah, that's all good. I got different years of time travel, too, so 2001 is probably not one of them. Just due to some personal reasons, but so yeah, also some activity in Idaho, up into the Pacific Northwest. As far as volcanoes go, as far as the tremor goes, we'll check that out here real quick. Not a whole lot of movement, folks, here on the Cascadia. This is all tremor related. As far as volcanic seismicity here in the, we'll check out the Mount Rainier area. Nothing to report there. As far as the seismographs, I'm sure that these things are going to look crazy with all the activity that's taken place today. Oh yeah, check that out. This is something I love to see. You can originally see the 7.3 right here. This is up at Mount Rainier and a seismograph station there around the volcano. You can see that 7.3 strike and being picked up, P waves being picked up there by the seismograph station. And then it just all goes to some chaos with the 6.1, the 7.4, and the 8.1 ultimately creating that massive wave there along the needle of the seismograph station. And this is, of course, not being felt by anyone, but this kind of gives you a good idea of how sensitive the Earth is and how sensitive this equipment is when it comes to picking up, vibrations in the Earth. It's just pretty awesome to see. Another place to check it out here is Yellowstone National Park. All the seismograph stations there picked up the enormous amount of energy being released today. It's definitely something that's going to go down in history for quite a while, with the amount of release of pressure today. A lot of movement. All those 7.3, 7.4, 8 pointer right there, 8.1, and the P waves just transverse through the Earth and create those waves, so to speak, throughout the ground. I tell you what, the Earth is definitely the Earth is definitely feeling it today. Let me tell you, unbelievable amount of energy. So checking out the tsunami.gov website real quick, folks. Okay, folks are kind of wondering. Still shows a tsunami threat. Okay, now the tsunami threat is due to the late arrival of the wave of the tsunami along the western part of South America in the Mexico, Ecuador region. We're still kind of waiting on that. The meters of it, 0.3 to 1 meter, potentially possible in Colombia, Ecuador, Fiji, Cook Islands. All those areas right there are still possible in seeing that wave come ashore. But any type of major tsunami is non-existent at the moment, unless we have something pop off, which hopefully doesn't happen. The latest, number 12, right? Non-U.S. Canada Pacific threat number 12 message from these folks here are showing shows that it's unchanged in this message. But we'll go ahead and read that real quick. Tsunami waves reaching more than... Talk about this, but I don't think the Kermadec Islands seen 3 meters of a tsunami out there. I've seen a couple videos floating around Twitter of a tsunami coming in certain areas of New Zealand, but it didn't look like it was 3 meters. 3 meters. There's that 0.3 to 1 meter above the tide level for Australia, Chile, Colombia, all those areas. They keep this the same because most of these areas, Australia and stuff like that, has already received, if it was going to receive, including Solomon Islands, it already received whatever potential wave was coming at them. But areas further away, Chile, Panama, stuff like that, is kind of still waiting on that potential wave coming in. And of course, actual amplitudes at the coast may vary from forecast due to will likely be much smaller than the forecast indicates. Barrier reef. So expanded. Yeah, so more than likely they're just throwing out the potential out there when it comes to the possibility of the maximum height of a tsunami. Estimated times of arrival, Chile area, you're looking at UTC times and whatnot along those areas. A couple tsunami observations is not that big of a deal, folks. I think the highest we've seen, the highest tsunami, or I should say the largest tsunami, was a 1.8 foot. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. near this region right here, and I'm not for sure where that's at. But the Great Barrier Island looks like New Zealand had a 1-foot tsunami. So luckily this thing played out good for us, here on Earth. It could have been much, much worse. 8.1 in subduction area, say off the coast of Northern California. In this area, could definitely produce a much more damaging tsunami, just due to the plate dynamics here. But yeah. Just, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. It's been a crazy day, folks. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen an 8.1 earthquake out there. It's been a couple years, right? Been 3 or 4 years, I believe. I can't remember exactly when the last 8-pointer struck, but definitely been quite a while. What a way to start off 2001, there's no doubt. And, a lot of folks, I've seen quite a few comments about, about all the solar activity we've been picking up here. There's been quite a bit of, northern lights, geomagnetic storms, stuff like that happening in the atmosphere or up above there, above the planet. I think, I'm kind of a believer when it comes to space weather affecting plate tectonics here on Earth. I really am. Now, how much it plays a part in it, I'm not for sure. But I do believe strongly that it does play a part in the earthquakes and the plate tectonics here on Earth, especially strong storms, because our Earth is, our atmosphere is designed to, geomagnetic field is designed to prevent all this radiation and whatnot from the sun coming into the earth and damaging stuff like that on the surface. So it's I strongly believe that it plays a part, folks, in the in plate tectonics here. Latest geomagnetic forecast there looks like a pretty not a strong storm, but a potential strong, weak G1 storm on March 6th, with a potential auroras being viewed at mid-latitudes at 25%. High latitudes have a 25% chance of seeing that take place. The latest surface of the sun there shows the coronal holes, a couple solar flares, not solar flares, but sunspots there kicking off there on the surface of the sun. 5.1, the latest quake here on the globe, just striking the same area as the 8.1. Of course, this will continue for quite some time, folks. The globe is overloaded with earthquakes within this vicinity. I mean, I'm not even joking. It's like something I've never seen before. It's like, it's pretty crazy looking. I do have all the stations keyed up locally. Kermadec Islands BHZ station, which monitors the earthquake activity out there, is the station on the bottom that would pick up any and all earthquake activity that's taken place there. Of course, the USGS is probably playing a little bit of catch up when it comes to the earthquake activity out there, so it may not show up on the live seismograph stations, but it may show up on the globe due to the the notification system and whatnot. So Kermadec Islands right here, where this hand is reaching, that's the latest station showing earthquake activity where this 8.1 struck. I would have liked to have seen that take place on that specific station, but unfortunately I did not have that keyed up at the time, so I'm kind of bummed out about that, but it's all good. It is all good, folks. So I'm kind of adding, what I'm doing right here is adding further earthquakes onto the globe because they're over the 24-hour, because they're within the 24-hour period. But with the massive amount of quakes taking place down here, it's kind of sucking up, if you will, the number of quakes here on the globe. So I kind of have to. Well, I don't want to make it too crazy out there. This program almost seems like it wants to crash for some reason, which is the first. I've never seen this program crash. Anyway, yeah, just be prepared out there, folks. You know, it's I've seen a lot of comments about, well, where's this going next? You know, what's building up next? Who knows? I mean, the plate dynamics out there show the Pacific plate headed to the west, Australian plate down here, kind of headed to the east southeast. It's hard to say, you know, how much pressure is being built up behind this Pacific plate, how much pressure is back here, back build on the North American plate. It's just, you know, it's something to just take wonder in. I guess, you know, be observant and just be prepared when it comes to the potential for earthquakes in any given area where you live here on this planet. West Coast, you know, New Madrid, just New Madrid, I should say. Definitely good to be prepared, folks. Have an earthquake plan. Make sure you're stocked up. You know, I'm a prepper, so I like to prep and I like to stock up on many things when it comes to survival. So I think I've watched too many apocalyptic movies when it comes to the end of the world, but that's okay. All right, guys, stay safe out there. Be prepared. Look for further aftershock activity in the region, but I can't rule out a potential larger quake to the north or to the south of this region, folks. With the dynamics of the plates out there, it's just something to point out. Have a good night, folks. We'll chat to you guys a little bit later. Peace out.